Peter Law on this show loads of times, right? And we'll continue to do it if the occasion arises, because he's getting the big wages and he's up there to be shot at. So we're just normal fans. Mm-hmm. The one thing I would say to anybody is, I went in there very sceptical, but I left that meeting really liking Peter Law, and I genuinely did. You know, I think people can slag me and say I've sold it and whatever, but I do genuinely like the guy. I think he's a genuine guy, but what I would say is I think he's surrounded himself by people that aren't very good at their job. Mm-hmm. And I might be out of order saying that because I don't know the guys personally, but we've got PR guys there that I don't even know what they look like, or I didn't know what they looked like before I went to that game. I don't know if we've got a media team and stuff, I don't even know what they do. You know, so we've got people in the background there that's working for Peter Law. And by the way, I want to take John Paul Taylor out of that equation as well, because he chaired the meeting. It was his idea to have the meeting. He was the guy that ran it well. He's basically swimming against a fucking tsunami. You know, the guy's himself, and I don't think he's got much power. But he's a genuine Celtic supporter. I think he's a guy. He's got a bit of savvy about him as well. So nothing at all against John Paul Taylor. He's totally exempt for this. But I just think the guys that Peter Law surrounds himself with, I don't think they're doing him any favours. Because I think Celtic is in the Virgil. And I think it's that important. That's why I was pissed off with people talking about bus parks and people talking about 2-for-1 ticket schemes. That why did the pay-as-you-go guys get the 2-as-1 and the season ticket holders didn't? Well, we got it twice last year. I'm not really caring because I would just fill the stadium with folk for nothing. If they can get in free, I can afford to buy a season ticket. I don't mind paying money to buy a season ticket. So see the ones that aren't getting filled, I would just give them away for nothing for them to walk by the stadium and wants to come in. I don't have an issue with that at all. So things like that was getting away from the major points, because I think Celtic as a football club could potentially dying in front of our eyes. You know, I think it's that important that we could be losing generations of fans. So basically, put the points to him, and I think he was genuinely shocked, and he was like, "Is that the way you think?" And I was like, "Aye." And I mentioned going to Murrayfield for the games when the summer was still on, going with your shorts and stuff like that. How good do you feel? Yeah. And we're talking about having fan zones outside the stadium. Well, you don't want to have fan zones when you get horizontal rain and do you know what I mean? Hailstones coming in and things getting blown away. You know, the weather we get in this country in the winter is pretty grim, to say the least. So to me, it's a no-brainer. So I think that to me was a very pertinent point.
Do you think he had any inkling of how bad we can see things becoming?
He kind of did, because he kind of mentioned, he says, we're losing, we fully agree that we're losing Ireland fan base. And Big Marty for Ballymena says, no, you've lost Ireland. Mm-hmm. You know, and then there was a thing about, we're saying, well, we're losing Scotland. Mm-hmm. You know, we're losing the kids in Scotland. And it's, you know, but the thing I'm thinking positive about this is he's got us in there and he's listening to us. But
he definitely, there's no doubt, Joe, like, and the people listening, he understands there needs to be a seismic change. There's no doubt about it. And he was, you know, what you said about was he a bit shocked? I mean, you know, I've slagged Peter Law as much as anybody, and I fucking slagged him to his face on that fucking meeting. I think he genuinely had underestimated the strength of feeling for fans on a wide number of issues, but certainly on the summer football, where when he said that about opposing it because of the season ticket thing, people just looked at him like, you're fucking joking. And he was really shocked. He was like, he realised he was out of step with that kind of thing. And when Jason was putting the positives to him about summer football, he seemed quite happy that somebody was actually doing that and kind of thinking, Christ, aye. And it was obvious that, you know, his PR guy and the guys around him, they were all nodding away, aye, you're right, aye, that kind of thing, you know. So that was the thing. I mean, he also extended it to, they had the kind of European club meeting at Celtic and they were party at Celtic Park the week before. And he said that absolutely on the agenda is trans-national leagues and things like that. He said, because, you know, he said, we have to, you know, realise that we're just gone nowhere in Scotland and the game is actually dying. And that, therefore, he said, the good thing about it is, he said, although the English Premiership's kind of colonised the world, there's hundreds of big clubs all around Europe that are feeling exactly the same way. That there has to be some sort of change. And so he reckoned that for the first time ever, you know, he said that he even said that Aberdeen are saying the same, and the Aberdeen are saying, you know, we're a rich city, you know, oil, all that kind of thing. You know, we want a crack at England. You know, why do Swansea and Cardiff get it and we didn't get it? Never mind just Celtic. You know, so it's clearly in the ether. And then somebody said to him, well, would a British Cup be a precursor? He said, that's definitely a possibility. So there's definitely some kind of realisation that this just cannot go on, you know, the way it is, because everybody can see it. You know, I think the stat that was brought up was that when we played Ross County up in Dingwall recently, the combined attendance for the 6 SPL games that weekend was 25,000, which, you know, that's just unsustainable. It's unsustainable. So there is that kind of level of thinking, and then people, you know, there was the big. I mean, I think certainly from my perspective, and I know for Jason's, because we talked about the reason we went to that meeting was because of massive concern for Celtic and the way the club's being run, and he put that across to people, and you could see quite a few people that were in there, you know, lately, previously, whatever. They were exactly the same. You know, they were kind of there to try and shake them into fucking action and say, you know, you need to do something here. So, you know, and the meeting went back and forth on that respect, and they've almost kind of relegated everybody else there to just, it was kind of like, you know, people talking to Peter Lawwell. Even the manager, you know, the manager wasn't asked a question for probably the first hour and 20 minutes because people were so concerned about the way the club was gone and different things. And, you know, you could have, Jason said they went on for 2 hours, you could have sat there for 20 hours.
Yeah,
going on about stuff.
And the thing as well, right? Here's another wee point, right? And I've kind of suggested it to JP, but I don't know the best way of doing this. And obviously, their time's precious, so they're busy people, whatever they're doing. I think they should devote more time to supporters anyway. But the thing is, there was loads of people there who had their own agendas. Some of them were decent agendas. Some of them maybe not so much. But it's like, the big. We wanted to talk about big things that are sort of things that are important to all Celtic supporters and things that can take the club forward, not just things about a wee ticket here and that and there. And but there was certain groups there, like the disabled supporters were there, so they had definite pertinent points to do with the disabled section, which is. But I think if Celtic could, they should be speaking to the guys on their own. Do you know what I mean? Because their points didn't really affect the bigger crowd. The Green Brigade were there. The two boys for the Green Brigade were excellent. They put some great points across. And one thing I would say is that they look as if they've got a relationship with Peter Law now. And they look as if the board are coming to terms with things and they're working together with each other. So that's positive, you know. So, and the thing is, the Green Brigade guys weren't hanging back. You know, they were giving as good as they got. And none of us... But the thing was as well, say there was 30 people there was maybe 15 people didn't even speak. Yeah. You know, so it's like you say to yourself, what with the greatest respect, what are they doing there if they're not speaking? You know, that was I sort of feel 15 other guys that would have said something could have been there, you know. So it's just I don't know.
Because there was, I mean, the Green Brigade guys were good and they had a good ding-dong with Lawwell, wasn't he? Like, you know, we had a ding-dong with him about the cheating and, you know, basically he was kind of saying, the club done everything they could privately, but publicly they had to walk a fine line because they couldn't inflame the situation. I disagreed with that. You know, we went back and forth and I spoke to him after it and he said they're still ongoing and things could still happen. The Green Brigade guys had a real go at him about the Offensive Behaviour Act, pulled him up on a lot of things. You know, they were backed up by everybody in the forum without a doubt. You know what I mean? They talked about their issues and all that, and Lawwell, you know, I think realises that because again he kept using this phrase, the broad church. We also have to look at the broad church. It's fine, but in terms of guys in that room, everybody was supportive of the Green Brigade. You know, and what they bring. And one of the guys that was representing the corporate guys said, you know, you are brilliant for us and all that kind of thing. And the Green Brigade guys were very, very articulate. Barry and the boy was Kevin. You know, very articulate and very kind of like, you need to be doing more for us, basically, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, Harry's going on in the chat room about the discussing about the cheating and stuff like that, but I was not mentioning it. I don't think it's my place to mention it, Harry, so you can take umbrage all you want, mate. So I don't think it's my place. You know,
I'll just tell exactly what happened. I asked them directly about it. why had they said anything? He said, we had to walk a fine line, the threats were coming at the club, all that kind of thing, couldn't inflame the situation, done everything, we pushed everything we can privately, and it's still ongoing. I mean, everybody in there seen how much I was going mental at him about it, he was going mental back, etc., etc., etc. So, it's an ongoing issue, and he was left in absolutely no doubt that it's no Rangers, don't call them Rangers, don't say Old Firm, don't legitimise them in any shape or form. And I was to just me say that. Everybody to a man and woman said that in that room to him.
Yeah, and every Celtic supporter did say that to Peter. So that was it,
Yeah, so, I mean, just reading Harry's messages here. Harry, listen, you've just been told the story. Like, I mean, the only thing we can do is go out word for word and ask Paul, quoting exactly what we'll all said. And you know what that's for? That's for the Daily Record. Right, and that's not for us because we're not here to do that.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, that's us. We're moving on. If Harry's got a problem with it, I'm sorry, Harry, but that's the way it is. So, as I say, a lot of things were spoke about, and somebody's mentioned, did we mention the living wage? It didn't get a chance to mention it because it was, say, 2 hours. It was over at the blink of an eye. I was wanting to mention it. There was someone for the Celtic Trust there, so they didn't mention it either. But as I say, I was certainly wanting to bring it up, but the time just actually went. It went in the blink of an eye. But the one thing I want to start discussing now is, as I say, these things are ongoing. The minutes will be produced for the meeting. Do you know what I mean? They'll be shared. They'll be out there in the public domain. And this is hopefully a start of Celtic maybe working together with the fans. Because one thing Peter Law was left in no doubt about is the fans feel alienated for the club. Mm-hmm. See with the moving moving the kick-off times for the Sunday games, it gets slaughtered in that. Absolutely slaughtered in that. And the answers that they gave us were just terrible. It was seemingly done in a whim. It was like so amateurish. I was very unimpressed, by what I was seeing there. But the thing that I want to go on to talk about here is me and Paul went in there and we wanted to get in there to have a go at the board. So we think the board's let us down in so many ways. And I wanted to have a go and find out what was happening behind certain situations, because I think there is a very big disconnect with the board. But Ronnie Dyler was at the meeting, and me and Paul were like, what's Ronnie Dyler doing here? This is a meeting between us and the board, right? So he was like a bit of an after show for us, because at the end of the day, we love Celtic unconditionally, whether the manager's there or not. We're all going to support the manager, whether we come on here and slag him or whatever. When Saturday comes, we support the manager. He's the guy who leads us into battle and we're all behind him. So that goes with it saying. So basically, we're sitting there and Ronnie Dyler's sitting listening to all this and we're shouting at the chairman and and it's getting to the stage where a bit comical. But Paul reined it in, and Paul just says, right, I want to ask, and Ronnie, so you can take it away here, Paul.
We were getting a wee bit, everything was getting a bit, and it was getting a wee bit random, and I seen Ronnie Dyler sitting there, and he was still like fucking going, oh my God, but he was sort of like, he made his wee contributions and that, but I just says to him, Ronnie, can you just tell us what it's like to be the Celtic manager and, how things are progressing? And he kind of started off with sort of a few cliches and stuff like that. And he sort of then, at the point where you thought, he just really just broke into his stride. And he talked about his football philosophies, which are effectively, he likes 11 defenders on the park. He likes to win the ball back really quickly. He wants triangles on the wings. He hates it when passes are made that aren't the impact passes. One of the biggest things in football that drives him insane is when you're winning 3-0 and you didn't want to go on and win the game 8 or 9-0, because he said, I want to destroy teams. Every time I went on that football pitch, I want to destroy teams. He spoke about how, there was a lot of negativity about things that he'd done, but if you actually analysed that, Craig Gordon hadn't played a game in 2 years. He's now fantastic. Virgil van Dijk's playing the best football of his career. Jason Denayer had never played a first-team game for anybody. You look at him now, he's in the Belgian squad. Stefan Johansson's getting back to being the player that he was at Storm Godset. Scott Brown's absolutely vital. He said Charlie Mulgrew's an absolutely brilliant professional. He said Callum McGregor has been up and down, but he said he needs the support of the fans. He says because he gets frightened. He actually used that word. He said he gets frightened when he makes mistakes and people shout at him and stuff like that. He said Emilio's now playing out his skin. He said he's added 3 or 4 yards to his pace, and he said he can only see progress. He said